Hello and welcome to Silicon Valley Nonprofits. I'm your host, Bobby Chastain. I'm joined today by Carlos Quesada, who is the Operations Manager of the Epilepsy Foundation of Northern California. Carlos, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Epilepsy is something that's largely misunderstood. What's your foundation all about getting the word out?
Epilepsy is the fourth most common neurological disorder, but it combines, like in Northern California by itself, there's more than 140,000 people living with epilepsy. Epilepsy has been a neurological disorder that it has a stigma. There's a lot of people afraid of the whole concept of seizures and how it affects your social environment. So one of the things we do on the foundation is we try really hard to break that stigma through education, not only to the people living with epilepsy, but their families, their co-workers, their schools, and try to teach them and show them that epilepsy is just, there's nothing obscure or sinister about epilepsy. It's just a neurological disorder.
I was surprised, looking at your website, that some of the stats about how prevalent it really is. 1 in 26 people will suffer from a seizure.
Yep.
So, and there's all kinds, from the grand mal and,
Yep.
and the other kinds. So, I try to imagine being a young person, you discover your epilepsy, and then feeling, so alone in that. So you guys
Yep.
do a lot to provide support and community around that.
Correct. So one of the things that we spend a lot of our energy is our support groups, thanks to a lot of our volunteers, and getting to build a community around epilepsy. One of the things, I have so many examples of people who live with epilepsy most of their lives, that they never reach out to the community, and they always feel like in an island. They feel like the exception, and the truth is there's a lot of people living with epilepsy. That first step is one of the hardest steps, to accept the fact that you are living with epilepsy, but there is a support mechanism out there for you, and the Epilepsy Foundation Northern California is one of them. We help them connect to other groups, people living with epilepsy. We have programs that connects to other people. We give educational programs. We have seminars with information about the illness, the news about epilepsy. Everything is new. So that's one of our focuses.
Yeah, talk about getting people together through the peer-to-peer program. So how does that work?
So we have a series of support groups but obviously these support groups meet once a month in certain locations, and we cannot access the whole range of Northern California. So we have this peer-to-peer program. It's a mentoring program where you go to our website and you apply for this mentoring program, and we connect people living with epilepsy or parents living with epilepsy to a mentor, with somebody that we feel is qualified to answer questions. And we build this connection with them. So they feel, like I said again, support mechanism of the foundation, and it's a very successful program.
How do you select the mentors?
We have a large database of volunteers that they have signed up to be part of this program. We get information about them, we interview them, and then we, based on this database of skills, and we connect one person with another.
So you mentioned that this is volunteer positions. I heard you have a very small staff, is that correct?
We have a very small staff. We try really hard, and one of my jobs of operations manager is to be more efficient, to be able to do as much as we can. But one of our strongest skills or power is our volunteer base. We have a large group of volunteers that they're very passionate, that they participate in our programs, and they help in all this, and pretty much all our programs and events. So
yeah. So what are some of the sort of keystone events that you have over the course of the year?
We have a good variety. We have an art therapy program, for example, that we do with a small group, but it's actually pretty powerful and it actually has a great effect on people living with epilepsy. A lot of people that they never reach out, they use art as a way to connect to a new group of people like them, and opens their vision of how living with epilepsy can be. We have very important informational seminars called Living with Epilepsy. We have one in Madera coming up in September 16. You can go to our website for more information. We have a basketball camp, for example, for children living with epilepsy, for kids living with epilepsy, and done by Mighty Mike, which is a really great story of somebody who has been very successful and has lived with epilepsy all his life. And then we have like our summer camp for children living with epilepsy, which is Camp Coelho, which is a great program, really making a difference on getting these kids to be part of the community and get ready to live a life with living with epilepsy.
I'd imagine there's incredible value in being a young person with epilepsy, and then, I mean, it's something that, until you meet somebody that also has it, it's hard to find someone that can really relate. So you guys have a great video of this camp that you made from one of the prior ones, so if we could take a look at that and we'll come back and talk about it.
Thank you.
He went from being in like utter shock and thinking that his life was completely over and he was never going to be able to do anything fun again or be outside of my sight, to having a really normal summer camp that he had never experienced. So it kind of showed him right off the bat that nothing's changing.
And being at this camp, I could really relate to other people, and I don't think there's any problem with having this condition. Everyone here has it, and we obviously embrace it.
After we dropped Levi off at camp, I'm gonna cry again, sorry. It was the first time in 9 years that we got to spend 2 days together without worrying about our son.
I know I can like be myself without being judged or anything.
This is my 4th year, and I wait all year for this, and it's just really fun. And without it, I feel like an outcast where I live. I don't know anybody else with epilepsy, besides here.
I prefer to have the seizure here than anywhere else.
Yeah, me too.
Kids will say things such as, I felt normal for the first time in my life. Or kids will say things like, I made my first friend this week and I was able to talk to them and they understood what I was going through. And when you hear those statements, it comes from a place that I would never imagine some of these 9-year-olds would be able to go.
And I think if there was anything that really stuck out to me, it was the level of selflessness in this community, and understanding and sympathy and empathy for others just blew my mind. These people are connecting on such higher levels than one element. They're connecting because they are just really kind, good, genuine people. I mean, there's some times where it was hard for me to contain my emotions because it was so beautiful, and I hope that they can see the beauty too.
If other kids are debating whether to come, they should come because it isn't scary. Everyone is, like I said, is really safe here.
We just love them and take care of them while we're here.
You can really tell from the testimonial part how important and powerful that camp is.
Yeah. You actually can see the faces of some of our volunteers that they get involved in all these programs, and honestly, a lot of these programs wouldn't be possible without the donations of everybody around about our community. You know, we are a small foundation, but we have a lot of work to do. You know, we spend around 83% of all our funding into our programs,
which is amazing.
Yeah, and we want to keep it small because we have a lot to do, and we use as much as we can with our volunteering base. But we also need to grow. There's a lot of work to do. So
how can someone give? I mean, it's obviously a very worthy cause, and I think it's probably underrepresented. So,
totally,
you know, how can people get involved? How
Very
can they
simple. Go to the website, go to epilepsynorcal.org, and there's a donation option there. There's a volunteer option there. You can check all our programs, all our events, and there is tons of information about epilepsy. There's a way to connect with experts. We have lists of epilepsy centers in Northern California area. So our website is really our most powerful tool to get somebody introduced into the living with epilepsy. You know, so we welcome everybody who's new to the illness to contact us. You know, we sometimes just a simple short conversation can make you feel a little bit more optimistic about your future and make you understand that there is a lot of people like you and you're not alone. So
you mentioned to me that a lot of the volunteers maybe will be sufferers of seizures themselves. Is that true?
Yeah, a lot of volunteers are either parents living where their children live with epilepsy, or people who can have a very normal and very successful life living with epilepsy. A lot of my coworkers have epilepsy, and it's okay. There's a lot of very successful people living with epilepsy, and you gotta kind of understand that there's hope, and you gotta go through the paces. You gotta go through the education, get your neurologist, get your medication, get through the long journey. It's the long journey to get to and try to live without seizures.
And you know, you guys do so much, and there's so much in place support-wise to manage having epilepsy, but there's no cure for this, is there?
No, there's not a specific cure. I mean, right now, what they focus on is trying to live seizure-free. It's amazing how such a neurological disorder that is so common, that there's still a lot of unknown about what causes these seizures. So there's a lot of work to be done, and our hope as a foundation is to one day to be able to invest more money into research and support. We're very lucky in Northern California to have some of the best epilepsy centers in the world, some of the best experts in the world, and we reach out to them, and they're part of a lot of our seminars and a lot of informational seminars. So after saying that, it's still a long ways to go.
Sure, sure. And you know, hopefully they'll make those breakthroughs. I grew up in a house with an uncle who had epilepsy, and I remember it was so misunderstood in the 80s and 90s even, you know, and it's very scary when it happens. So if you're not, you know, even someone who was subjected to it, you know, seeing it all the time, it was still, you know, frightening when it happened. And the misconceptions about, you know, let's put a spatula in his mouth.
Which is the worst thing you can possibly do. And one of the things we focus on is education. We want to reach out to schools. We want to certify schools to be seizure first aid trained, where it's something that they know and they understand. You know, we have a lot of phone calls and requests from schools that are receiving a child living with epilepsy for information. We send them posters, we give them training. But the truth is, there is a lot of children living with epilepsy that they don't say anything, and because that is stigma, that the fear of what are they going to think about me, like they almost like it's their fault to have epilepsy. And our goal is to have a good education program through as many schools as we can, so from a very early age, and people start understanding what epilepsy is and break that stigma, break that dark side of the concept of epilepsy.
It's much more prevalent than I think many people know. So keep up the good work, and best of luck to you. Thank you for joining us, Carlos.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Silicon Valley Nonprofits. Bye-bye.